There comes a moment in life when someone you love will look you in the eyes, and without saying a word they will walk away, not because you weren't good enough, not because you didn't love them hard enough, but because they were never meant to stay, and when that moment arrives, it feels like the air is being pulled from your lungs. You question everything, your worth, your beauty, your voice, your value. Because someone you saw the universe in looked at you and still said no. But my dear, let their no be the beginning of your yes. Yes to choosing yourself. Yes to showing up for your soul. Yes to standing in the mirror and seeing someone worth loving, even if they didn't. You see, when they didn't choose you, they did not define you. They revealed themselves, and in doing so, they gave you a gift. An invitation to return home to you. Stop rewriting your story just to fit in someone else's chapter. Stop begging to be understood by someone who hasn't taken the time to understand themselves, and stop making their departure the measure of your value. You are not unlovable because someone left. You are not broken because they couldn't see the depth of your heart. You are not too much because they could only offer crumbs when you were a feast. So today, let it be the day you choose yourself. Choose to rise in the silence they left behind. Choose to plant flowers in the place they burned down. Choose to become so whole that their absence no longer echoes in the halls of your heart. Let your healing be loud. Let your self-love be a rebellion. Let your peace offend every storm they try to leave you in. You don't need closure when you have clarity, and the clearest truth is this. If they didn't choose you, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a life where you no longer wait for someone else to validate your existence. Where you don't stand at the door of someone's heart, knocking, hoping they'll let you in. No, you build your own home. You decorate it with everything you are. Your passion, your scars, your wild, your softness. And you only open the door for someone who already sees it all and says, yes, I want to stay. But even if they never come, even if no one knocks, you'll still be dancing in your own light, because now you know you are enough, you are worthy, and most of all, you are yours. There's a sting that only rejection can bring. It's not loud, it doesn't scream, but it lingers, soft, slow, and sharp. It slips into your chest like a whisper and somehow becomes the loudest noise in your world. When someone you opened your soul to decides you're not what they want. When someone you saw a future with walks away like you were just a layover on the way to something better. It cuts deeply. Quietly, you start asking the kinds of questions that haunt the quiet moments. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? What did they see in me that made them turn away? And that's where the ache begins. Not in the loss, but in the story you start telling yourself about the loss. Because we don't just grieve their absence, we grieve the version of ourselves we became when we were with them. And we grieve the version of the future we thought we'd get to live. It's human, it's natural. But it's also dangerous. Because somewhere in that grief, we begin to believe that their rejection is proof that we were unworthy to begin with. But what if it wasn't about you? What if their no was never meant to shrink you, but to steer you? What if their rejection wasn't a mirror, but a map? You see, rejection feels personal, but often it's not. Sometimes people walk away not because of who you are, but because of where they are. Because of what they're carrying, because of what they're afraid of, because of what they cannot face inside themselves, and sometimes the rejection is not a punishment, it's a protection, a divine interruption, a sacred rerouting to something better, deeper, truer. But to see that, you have to let go of the fantasy that their acceptance was the only path forward. You have to stop standing in front of the closed door, knocking, hoping it opens again. You have to stop reading silence like it's a sentence written against you, because here's the truth, people will leave, some will leave suddenly, some will leave slowly, even while holding your hand, and some will never even explain why, but their departure is not a verdict on your value. It's easy to believe that if they left, it must mean something was wrong with you. It's tempting to take their absence as confirmation of your deepest fears. That you're too much or not enough, that your love is overwhelming, that your heart is inconvenient, that your honesty is too loud. But the truth is, The right people will never be scared of the real you. And the wrong people will never be ready, no matter how much you shrink or silence yourself to fit. When someone rejects you, pause before you assign blame to your being. Ask instead, what if this is life protecting me from a smaller version of myself? Because sometimes the people we want the most are also the ones who would have slowed us down the most, the ones who, had they stayed, would have clipped our wings just to keep us close, the ones who didn't want to grow and wouldn't have let us grow either. So what looks like rejection might actually be mercy in disguise. You didn't fail. You just outgrew a space that wasn't built for your becoming. Maybe you were about to compromise your calling just to keep them around. Maybe you were about to dim your light just to make them feel comfortable in your glow. Maybe you were about to trade your wild, your wonder, your freedom for a place in someone else's limited vision. But the universe had other plans, so they didn't choose you, and at first that feels like a betrayal. But if you listen closely, if you breathe through the pain instead of resisting it, you might hear a quieter truth underneath. They weren't meant to choose you. You were meant to choose yourself. Rejection forces you to sit with yourself, to examine the places where you've been outsourcing your worth, to acknowledge how long you've been waiting for someone else to validate what you already knew about yourself deep down. It's a mirror, and it's a turning point, because when you stop begging for doors to reopen, you realize that you've been carrying keys all along. Keys to places far more sacred than where you were begging to stay. You begin to ask different questions, not why didn't they choose me, but why did I forget to choose myself first? Not what's wrong with me, but what did I ignore in myself just to stay wanted? And when you get honest, you start to see the truth that was there all along, that love doesn't abandon. That real love does not confuse, that being chosen by someone else should never come at the cost of betraying yourself. So let this be the moment you stop looking at their absence like a curse. Let it become the turning point. The origin story of your awakening. You are not behind, you are not lost, you are being rerouted, you are being led. That love you dreamed of, the one that's honest, safe, passionate, freeing. That love does not require your suffering to prove its strength. That love will not need you to become less just to be kept. It will not require begging. It will not need convincing. It will see you fully and want to stay, and until it comes, you will not settle for anything less. Rejection has a way of burning away the illusions. It teaches you to stop building homes in temporary places. It reminds you that you are not here to be half loved or almost chosen. You are here to rise from every closed door. To walk away from every table where you're not being fed. To unclench your fists from people who are never holding your heart with care. To turn your pain into power, to return to yourself. And when you do, you'll stop chasing people who cannot hold you. You'll stop begging for places at tables that were never meant to nourish your soul. You'll stop thinking that being wanted is the highest form of love, because now you know being at peace with yourself is better than being accepted by people who don't value you. Being alone and whole is better than being with someone who makes you feel like you're too hard to love. Being redirected is better than being chosen by someone who isn't ready. So if they didn't choose you, let it be. Let them go. Let the silence teach you how to hear your own voice again. Let the emptiness become sacred space for healing. Let their absence clear the path for someone more aligned. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth. You do not need to twist yourself into versions you can't even recognize just to be loved. You are not a temporary stop on someone's journey. You are a destination, and only those meant to arrive will find their way. The rejection may have broken your heart, but your soul is still whole, and your story is not over, because in the end, the greatest love of your life will not be the person who finally chooses you. It will be the moment you chose yourself. Again and again and again, until your wholeness becomes the most non-negotiable part of your life, until you stop waiting to be chosen and start living like you already are, because you are chosen by your breath, by your purpose, by your future, and no one who walks away can take that from you. There's a narrative we've all been fed since we were young, that love is something you must find in another, that your worth is measured by someone else's ability to see you, that happiness arrives when you are finally chosen. So we spend years, sometimes decades, looking outward, looking for someone to affirm what we're terrified might not be true, that we are lovable, that we matter, that we are enough. But what no one tells you is this: the most transformative, most healing, most powerful love story you will ever experience is the one you write with yourself. When someone walks away, when someone breaks your heart, when someone says, "I don't want you," they're not just rejecting a relationship. They're rejecting the version of you they never truly understood. And what we often do in those moments is collapse into ourselves. We question our value. We relive every moment, every conversation, every second that might explain why they left. We think that if only we were smarter, prettier, calmer, quieter, more patient, they would have stayed. But that's a lie, because real love doesn't need you to become less. Real love is not a reward for perfection, and real love doesn't come to those who abandon themselves just to be accepted. So, what do you do when love walks out the door? You stop chasing it, you turn around, and you come home to yourself. That's when the true love story begins. Not the one where someone sweeps in and fills your emptiness. Not the one where you finally earn someone's devotion, but the one where you realize you were always whole, always worthy, always enough, even before they came and long after they left, because you can spend your whole life waiting to be chosen. Or you can make the decision that changes everything, to choose yourself. And what does that mean? It means you no longer betray your needs just to keep someone close. You no longer stay quiet about your feelings out of fear of being too much. You no longer chase people who only love you when it's easy. Choosing yourself means you wake up and remember you're the main character in your life, that your peace matters more than their potential, that your self-respect matters more than a second chance, that your time, your body, your soul are not up for negotiation. It means you stop asking, "Am I lovable?" and start declaring, "I love me." Because when you fall in love with yourself, your life begins to change in quiet, powerful ways. You stop entertaining the people who confuse you. You stop proving your worth to those who make you feel like you're asking for too much. You stop watering dead gardens, hoping they'll bloom again. Instead, you begin to pour into yourself. You start to build your dreams without waiting for a partner to make them valid. You start to listen to the needs of your soul, not just the desires of your heart, and in that space, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel full. Not from the attention of others, not from validation, but from the radical act of being fully present with yourself. It's not loneliness, it's not isolation, it's sovereignty. You realize that your joy doesn't depend on who stays, that your healing doesn't hinge on an apology that may never come, that your worth is not increased or diminished by who chooses you, because you choose you. This is the love story they don't write movies about. Because it's quiet, it's internal, it's not flashy or loud, but it is deep, and it is sacred. It's the kind of love that stays, the kind that doesn't ghost you when you're sad, the kind that doesn't criticize you when you're struggling, the kind that doesn't disappear when you make mistakes. You become your own safe place. You learn to hold your own heart when no one else does. You learn to give yourself what you were so desperate to get from someone else: patience, kindness, forgiveness, affection. And no, this doesn't mean you'll never want love again. It doesn't mean you've given up on relationships. It means the foundation is different now. Now, love is a choice, not a crutch. Now, love is a bonus, not your bandage. Now, love is a partnership, not a rescue mission. Because when you've chosen yourself, you won't be seduced by bare minimum. You won't settle for people who love inconsistently. You won't mistake attention for affection. You won't call chaos passion. You'll know what love is. Because you've given it to yourself first, and that's where your life begins to bloom. The energy you were giving to people who couldn't hold it. Now it fuels your purpose. Now it lights up your creativity. Now it becomes the fire that burns away every version of you that believed you had to beg to be loved. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It means you no longer need to lose yourself to keep someone. It means you won't be afraid to walk away. It means you won't stay where you are tolerated instead of celebrated. It means your loneliness doesn't scare you anymore, because your presence is finally enough. This kind of love, the love of self, is not arrogant, it's not selfish, it's sacred. It's the kind of love that liberates. It's the kind of love that gives you permission to be your full self without apology. It's the kind of love that makes you magnetic, not because you're trying to be anything, but because people are drawn to the wholeness you now carry within you. And if love finds you again, and it will, you won't be easy to impress. You'll see through the empty words, you'll recognize the difference between effort and performance, and most importantly, you'll never give someone more love than you give yourself, because now you know you don't need to be completed. You are not missing pieces, you are not a half, you are a whole universe, and the person who gets to stand beside you, they'll be someone who respects that, someone who adds, not fills, so if they didn't choose you. Let it be the moment you realized you don't need to wait to be chosen. You don't need someone to pick you like a prize. You don't need someone's hand just to feel steady, because you are standing now. On your own firm, rooted rising, and that is the beginning of your greatest love story. The one where you come back to yourself. The one where you stop searching, the one where you realize you were always enough. There is a moment in every heartbreak that hits harder than the rest. It's not when they leave. It's not when you read the message that ends it all. It's not even the sound of the silence they leave behind. It's the moment you start believing that maybe, just maybe, you're the problem, that your love is too much, that your heart asks for too many things, that your need for clarity, honesty, consistency, maybe those are flaws. Maybe if you had been a little less passionate, a little less vulnerable, a little more chill, they would have stayed, and it's in that quiet, suffocating space that the real damage happens, because heartbreak doesn't just break your connection to another person. It breaks the way you see yourself. It twists the truth. It convinces you that their inability to love you was your failure to be lovable. But my love, I need you to hear this. You are not hard to love. You are just asking for something real in a world that often settles for something temporary. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not too deep, too emotional, too invested. You are simply ready, and they were not. Real love is not afraid of the things you've been made to feel ashamed of. Real love will never flinch at your truth. Real love is not overwhelmed by your needs. Real love does not run when things get difficult. It leans in. But people who are still running from themselves will always run from someone who is real. They will tell you you're asking for too much, when what you're really asking for is the bare minimum: honesty. Presence, respect, emotional availability, effort, truth. That's not too much. That's what love requires. The problem isn't that you love too deeply. The problem is that they were too shallow to meet you there. You see, not everyone is ready for the kind of love that reveals. Because real love doesn't just feel good. It exposes. It brings to light every unhealed wound, every fear of abandonment, every shadow part they've been hiding from. And if someone hasn't done the work to face those parts of themselves, they will blame you for bringing them up. They will say you're too intense. They will say you triggered them. They will say you are the one causing chaos. But you didn't cause anything. You just loved from a place they weren't ready to go. And in that space of their discomfort, they may walk away. They may ghost you. They may say they're confused. They may even try to come back just to leave again. And you'll sit with that pain and think, if I had just been easier, they'd still be here. But easier for who? Easier for someone to misunderstand, easier for someone to half love you and still sleep peacefully at night. Easier for someone to avoid growth. You were not sent here to be easy for people who aren't willing to show up. You were sent here to be whole, to be honest, to love with the kind of depth that shakes the walls of someone's comfort zone. To love like truth, not like fantasy, and yes, that kind of love will scare people, especially those who are still hiding behind masks, especially those who only know how to receive love that doesn't require accountability. So no, you were never too hard to love. You were just someone who was ready for real, and they weren't. But here's where the shift happens. You do not need to become smaller just to be loved. You do not need to edit your soul to be palatable to someone who hasn't done the work to taste truth. You do not need to dilute yourself into something manageable just to keep someone who never saw your full value. Because the right person, the one who has faced their shadows, the one who knows the difference between attachment and devotion, the one who recognizes truth when they feel it, they won't ask you to become less. They'll say thank you for showing up fully, thank you for your honesty, thank you for the way you love, deeply, wildly, courageously. You were never too much, you were never the issue. You were simply holding the kind of love that required presence, and they were still searching for distraction, so let this be the moment you stop carrying the weight of their unreadiness. Let this be the day you return to your truth, that your love is not something to apologize for. It is sacred, it is strong, it is a gift. Not everyone has the capacity to receive, because love like yours, it heals, it awakens. It doesn't just touch the surface, it dives into the soul, and that kind of love demands depth in return. It asks for a heart that is open, a spirit that is willing, a presence that stays even when it's hard. So if they walked away, let them. If they called you too much, let them speak. If they couldn't stay, let them go. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your healing. Not everyone is meant to hold your love with care. Not everyone is meant to witness your becoming. But the one who is, they will not flinch at your fullness. They will not shrink from your light. They will not run from your truth. And until they arrive, you keep loving yourself the way you wanted them to love you. You keep holding your own hand through the lonely nights. You keep choosing yourself, not because you have no one else, but because you've finally remembered you are enough. You don't need to be more lovable. You don't need to be more perfect. You don't need to change your tone, your tears, your passion, your strength. You just need to be more you, more aligned with your truth, more committed to your boundaries, more loyal to your soul. The right person will not be intimidated by that. They will be drawn to it, because real recognizes real. Depth calls out to depth, and love that is ready will always meet you where you are, with nothing but open hands and steady presence. So stop asking what's wrong with you. Start asking what part of you still thinks you have to earn love by performing. Because you don't. You just have to be fully, unapologetically, whole. You are not hard to love. They were just not ready to love deeply, and that is not your fault. That is not your burden. That is simply the moment you get to walk away with your dignity intact, your head high and your love still whole, because you didn't lose anything. They did. They lost someone who was ready, someone who didn't play games. Someone who spoke the language of truth while they were still stuttering in the dialect of avoidance. So heal now, not so you can be loved again, but so you can remember that your love was never a mistake. It was a masterpiece, too rich, too honest, too rare for someone still living on borrowed feelings. Let your healing be your revolution. Let yourself, love be the answer to every question they left behind. Let your wholeness be the proof that you never needed their love to feel complete. You were never hard to love. You were just misunderstood by someone who hadn't yet learned how to love themselves. And now you're free to love again, but first, to love you. So now you know, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't because you were too much. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because they were not ready for what was real. Because your depth demanded presence. Because your love required truth. And not everyone is brave enough to meet themselves in the mirror of someone like you. But here you are still standing, still breathing. Still becoming, and that's the most beautiful thing, because even after the heartbreak, even after the silence, even after the nights you doubted your worth, you rose, you chose yourself, and that choice, that's what will change your life, not their return, not their apology, not their sudden realization, but your decision to stay loyal to your own soul, to honor your voice, to protect your heart, to stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know, that you are love, that you are light, that you are worthy by existence alone. So the next time someone doesn't choose you, don't fall apart. Rise, choose you again and again and again until it no longer feels like a rebellion but a rhythm, a way of living, a way of loving that starts with you and flows outward. Let the world watch as you build a life so full, so honest, so rooted in self, love, that no one's absence can shake it, that no one's silence can silence you. Because the truth is, you were never waiting to be chosen, you were only waiting to remember you already are.